What is up, guys? Politics Gaming here, and today we are returning back to the Federative Republic of Brazil. In the previous episode, essentially, we were just kind of doing a lot in terms of getting our act together. We were doing a lot. The reason it's taken me so long to get back to Brazil is, for one, there was an update that came out. I think there's maybe like one or two updates that came out. I've also kind of been working a lot, especially over the past week. I originally wanted to get an episode out maybe by last week or something like that, but then they were like, haha, no, you're gonna get scheduled like literally every day. So I'm only just now getting a break from that schedule, and holidays are coming through, and even then I'm not really working that much in the next week or two, so I'm gonna be dedicating some time back in the YouTube and everything. So first things first, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm doing a $100 giveaway at 10,000 subscribers. We are nearly 3,000 subscribers away from hitting 10,000. I'm about to hit 7,000 at the recording of this video. We're about 6,950. We need 50 more people to subscribe to the channel to help us hit that good old 7,000. So guys, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to see more content like this, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it or stream on the channel. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this episode of Brazil. So first things first, I just want to tell you guys that I did have to restart this save because there was a update that came out. So some things you may find a little inconsistent if you've been watching this all the way through. So I do apologize for that. There is actually another update that is going to be coming out very soon, and I'm going to have to do the same thing. So the faulty thing about all of these updates, I am not mad that they are making updates, but at the same time, it's kind of like I would have to restart the save and everything like that, and kind of do a little bit of cheating just to kind of get it to make sense and maybe be a little more consistent instead of all of my figures just kind of being off the charts. So right now we are starting off with a 4.24% deficit. We're going to play it off as if maybe some sort of economic downturn just hit, maybe some country, maybe the war in Ukraine possibly kind of threw us off kilter. But we kind of updated our relations with everyone. We're kind of back to where we need to go, but the only thing that we do need to kind of reset is the free trade agreements that we have. So we have 0 free trade agreements with a lot of people. We do have good relations with the United States, so we could shoot for a free trade agreement with the United States very soon. But we need to reset our agreements with Argentina and as well as maybe Chile and Colombia. Until then, we need to go over here, go over to budget. We are 5 stars monitoring food safety and assistance to converting to organic farming, which we need to wait undernourished. We need to wait until this is 1.5% before we can sign global economic treaties with other countries. So the moment that we can get things underway, we need to wait maybe about a month or two. We're going to try to get up to the year 2026 in this episode. So it might be a little bit longer in this episode. Maybe I'd probably say around maybe 40-50 minutes. Other than that, in terms of what's been going on in Brazil, the other reason that it took me a little bit longer to get through to another episode of Brazil is mainly because they just had a presidential election. So whenever I started this series, we did have President Jair Bolsonaro, who got elected in 2018, and in 2018 it was a pretty big upset in terms of that. I mean, it was like the United States had just elected Donald Trump as his president 2 years earlier, and in Brazil in 2018 Jair Bolsonaro came to power. His downfall began when the COVID pandemic actually hit. He basically just tried to play it off in some sort of way that there's no issue, it's just a cold, guys can go outside and everything like that. And I believe about more than 1 million people died in Brazil, and a lot of people did blame Jair Bolsonaro for that. So the biggest thing about Jair Bolsonaro is that his downfall not only began, I mean, you guys can probably say I'm an American making a commentary about Brazil. So the biggest thing to take away from it is that in the way I see it, his downfall did begin whenever the COVID pandemic hit, because of the way that he kind of managed it. I mean, even the United States was able to manage it a little bit better than Brazil had. It's unfortunate that had happened. If you guys are in Brazil and you lost someone to COVID, I am sorry for your loss. So what are you guys' thoughts on the loss of Jair Bolsonaro? But anyway, that's enough discussion about the presidential election. I'll go ahead and get the show in the road. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward. We're going to go over to industry and aluminum. What do we want to concentrate on? So let's go ahead and give 500 million reais to roadway and construction. I also do want to increase the wealth tax. So the wealth tax, we can get an additional 35 billion reais. Let's actually increase that to 9.5%. Actually, we're going to do 10%. Maybe we can do like 10-15% on the wealth tax, really lower that deficit, and it kind of like increases income or decreases income inequality in Brazil, an unfavorable change of regime in Ecuador. So a very, very sad development. So it looks like a socialist government just took power. So that's actually one of the biggest things that I actually predicted in this series, is that there was a Silva that took power in Brazil. However, the biggest thing that I got wrong is that I did not predict correctly his political ideology. So I did predict that Silva would win. However, I did not predict that he would be of a center-right ideology. So that's the biggest thing. It was either a communist or a far-right candidate in the presidential election of Brazil. So it was pretty unfortunate that those were the two only options. However, Brazil is basically kind of like the United States, where they are divided between right and left. Brazil has always been a very interesting country to me. All right, and we do see the latest census report. So 3 human beings in 100 belong to our nation. So that means that 3% of the world population is in Brazil. So our population now is 217.7 million people that live in Brazil. Maybe we can get to 300 million maybe by 2050. Are we gonna really be playing until 2050? Probably not. But I'm really shooting maybe for at least five more episodes. We want to play through the next presidential election. I think if we can get reelected, then we are going to we're gonna at least play through that entire term. I think we are term limited, so let me look. Term limits. So yeah, we can renew our term one time, and if we the biggest thing that I usually do is that if we lose these presidential elections, then that is an automatic end for the series. If we win, then we can continue on. So what kind of series do you guys want to see after Brazil? Would you guys want to see maybe a Ukraine series? Would you want to see a Russia series where we kind of like do an alternate history where maybe we can seek friendly relations with the West? Do you guys want to see maybe a Japan series, an Australia series, India? Maybe we could do India. Maybe we can do a European Union country, or maybe even I would be thinking maybe like Finland or Sweden or something like that. Maybe we could do some sort of Africa series, maybe as Ethiopia. Ethiopia would be very interesting. They have a pretty strong economy and they have a lot of room to grow, so we could actually concentrate on their service industry. Maybe South Africa, Mozambique, Madagascar could be pretty fun. Or maybe Mexico. Like, we could get rid of the drug cartels. We could develop their service industry. We can make them a highly developed country. That way, there's not, like, you know, two just pretty developed countries and then one that's just like developed, but they're having a lot of hard times with terrorism and drug cartels and everything like that. Like, it would be a heavy fight against corruption, which there are actually a lot of funding tools. Speaking of corruption, we're actually going to fight corruption ourselves. So crime rates is actually on the rise, so we need to possibly get something going in order to stop that from happening. No wonder it's going up, because public safety is not even being funded. So 5 billion reais to public safety and Secret Service, criminal investigation, internal affairs. And so internal affairs, let's dedicate about 12 billion reais to the police budget, and then that'll possibly reduce a little bit of crime. And then whenever we get some more money in the future, kind of lower our deficit to maybe 1-2%, then we can kind of just move to get that done. So let's check our military right now. 66,000 people are in the military. We have 1,400 missiles. We have 15,000 commandos. Let's buy some missiles as well. It's about 3 billion reais. Tax on large fortunes, creation of an ambitious space program. And what kind of space program do we have? Do we want to send a mission out at all? We could go to the moon. Let's do orbital probe landing. Let's think. Program initiated, 2-star. What about a manned orbital flight or walking on the moon? 4 stars. The first Brazilian to go to Mars, to go to the moon. Space habitation module, we don't even have any of that. We'd probably have to start off with getting some satellites into space. Venus. Let's call this, let's do a Venus probe. Well, let's call it the Vogel. The Vogel in space. Let's give some more funding to our space program. And do we even have a building for ourselves? Yes, we do. So we could launch that from Brazil, but where is that? It's actually pretty funny. Whenever the like day or two after the Artemis mission launched, I actually watched a video. I think it was like the Vink something from India. It was a suborbital. It was the first Indian privately funded suborbital flight. So it actually reached a height of about 80 kilometers whenever they launched it. And I think it launched around, so it launched from the Sriharikota base, because I don't remember the name of it, but I remember about what it looked like on a map. So it launched from Sriharikota, and then it launched like this. So it went about 80 kilometers into the air, and then it just landed maybe around right here. So I think it reached maybe about 120 to maybe about 100 something, 150, maybe 200 kilometers offshore. So the Vogel 1 is being researched. Good. It's a riot in Oslo. Apparently AMN is up to something no good. Atomic disaster just occurred in Nicaragua with 19,000 dead. Let's go ahead and send them an aid package, about 250 million reais. Maybe that'll boost our relations with Nicaragua real quick. Let's see. Come on. Come on. Always hate. Yeah, kind of boosted our relations just a tiny bit. Let's go over to education, see what kind of funding opportunities we can get. Let's go ahead and do some aids and ooh, it's going to be expensive. Yeah, funding all of this is going to be really expensive. We spend 1.4 trillion reais on our Ministry of Education, and we are still very, very much low in terms of literacy rates. Like, what are we? We're number 79 in alphabet. Salary. Percentage of scientists. We need more scientists. Germany, we need to go through and perfection of fabric. Good. Primary school attendance rates. Teacher training, supervision and guidance. Secondary training, let's do more for, oh god, man, that is so expensive. Agricultural training and technical training. Okay, we're gonna hold off on any funding increases to education. Culture, you can put a little bit more into culture. Maybe some musical comedies. We're gonna do maybe like an additional 10 billion reais to culture funding. And then we're going to go over to taxation. We're going to do 13% to the wealth tax. Actually, we're going to do 15%. That'll give us 220 billion reais. And I think that's going to be the max that we're going to do for the wealth tax, and then we're going to start moving over into like the financial transaction tax. We don't want to kind of like tax too much and then start to lower that economic growth. We're already instigating so much.
This person is at risk.
We're already instigating so much capital flight with a 15% wealth tax. So we're going to just kind of like hold back on that. However, we're going to start moving on to the financial transaction tax, which will lower our growth, but will increase a lot of funding. So that's what we need to kind of like move toward. So we're going to do a 0.15% financial transaction tax. And then maybe in the future, we're going to do a carbon tax as well. And speaking of let's go over here. Apparently, we don't have any of that. So let's see what our COP numbers are looking like. COP is going to be... So we're well below like our COP 22 or COP 30 projections, which that's going to occur on 2025. And in the previous episode, I think I remember talking about that, where basically like we were all the way over here and we were like well below our objectives, and we're still going to be below our objectives. So whenever COP comes up again, we're actually going to promise some lower emission projections. So this is according to set objectives, which is what you set at the COP conference. And they actually just had the COP conference not too long ago, and the COP conference for the first time has promised that there will be a fund set up for poor countries in order to help them achieve their global warming goals. So yeah, look at that economy status right there. So apparently that's still bugged but we still have an inflation rate, which is good. But like over here, whenever you go into the modding tool and make a mod, that's still bugged. Immediate lowering of the crime rates in Brazil, so that's good. What we're gonna do next is that we're going to put this on play, and we're gonna try to go forward a couple of months. But at the same time, we're gonna do global economic treaty if we can. So let's go over here so we're not wasting our time. We need to wait just a tiny bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and skip forward. We're gonna go forward up into maybe about August or September. If anything big happens, I'll go ahead and stop it right there, and then we're gonna go forward with the situation. But I'm gonna go forward a couple of months, and I'll see you guys there. All right, and we are back. By the way, I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, but Eversim actually put the Brazilian state flags in this new update, so very high quality flags. What they need to do is that they need to go back and just update literally every flag, because almost all of these flags are just like really crap quality. So that would be really cool if they were to just go in and just add like an actual HD, like non-low resolution. See, Peru for some reason has a really high quality flag, and then just everyone else just has a really low quality flag. So like Peru is just the one country where you just have a really good quality flag. Anyway, I'm kind of repeating myself, but I think you guys get my point. Everson, please change this. Please change this. Education research, and let's look. So we have SMRs. I think I can already build SMRs for some reason. Low power reactors lower than 300 megawatts, inexpensive and safer than conventional large reactors. Very good that they put these in. Very small countries like Georgia definitely would be mass producing these SMRs. I am very excited to unlock fusion in 2026. We got 1 year until we unlock the holy grail of nuclear energy. So what we're doing right now, basically what I was doing over the course of the past like maybe 10 minutes that I've actually been playing, kind of like increasing some of these taxes. We lowered the corporate tax, and we have a 5% growth rate. So what I can do is that I can still raise some money from like the industrial pollution tax to, let me look. So we're gonna do that. And then the financial transaction tax is very difficult to increase sometimes. So we're increasing those and then trying to raise some money. We're trying to raise at least maybe $100 billion out of each of those. If we can do that, we can almost eliminate this deficit that we have. So the deficit really isn't the problem. It's more so just how we actually raise that money without, you know, making the situation worse or decreasing our GDP per capita. So what else we're going to do is charitable donations. We could in the future actually pass those as laws. So exonerations for war veterans. Real estate is honestly the one I usually like to go for investment in real estate, because that actually basically like gives you a tax break for buying a house. Partial tax exemption applies to individuals who have invested in property and encourages new build construction. What else I'm actually doing right here is that I am going through and I am tackling the poorly insulated and unsafe housing metric. So that's one thing that I really want to get down. We have 5 million houses, public houses, that are just awful to live in. What else we're going to do is we're going to go over here to rent increases. We're going to have indexed linked rent increases, and we're going to pass that as law. So that way, if the economy ever just has a total downturn, then we have an index linked, so it's kind of tied to inflation. So that way people aren't just like increasing the rent by 200-300%, and then that way it's more kind of linked to inflation, or at least some economic metrics. I think what else we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and sign a free trade agreement with the United States. We're going to attempt this, and then hopefully we're going to be able to keep it. Maybe this series will be done by the time the next Eversim update comes around. Again, what do you guys want to see after the Federative Republic of Brazil? Would you guys like to see Canada? Would you guys like to see maybe the United Kingdom with everything that's been going on? I think I've been thinking about doing a UK series. I've never ever done a UK series, so that would be very interesting. Plus, we would have all of the economic economic downturn kind of stuff. Maybe try to not default on our debt. That'd be very, very interesting to play as. I think what else we're going to do, go over to construction, go over to maternity hospitals, and all of our staffing is on those houses, so we're not going to be able to build anything as of yet. Immigration, and go over to integration policy. Let's do opened. I think that's what we had before, but I think that was because of the reset in the save, that why it didn't save. So we're going to move that over to opened. We're going to have a more of an opened policy in terms of immigration. So we are in September. I think we're going to be moving our way again to the end of the year. We can get over to the end of the year, then that will definitely make this episode complete. All right, and we are now at COP30. The Brazilian objective for 2030 will be 1,000 megatons. We are already well below that margin, so I don't think it will be that much of an issue. And carbon neutrality in Brazil will be achieved by 2045. So we will go ahead and go through with that. And apparently the Brazilian people think that there are reptilians in the government, so we're going to go ahead and do a new campaign run on all of these conspiracy theories. And before the next election, we're going to go ahead and start launching some investigations against, you know what, actually, before this episode is done, let's go ahead and do other parties and Secretary General of the Communists, and let's do United Left Social. And as well, okay, we're just gonna do that, and just in case they actually are able to find out that we're investigating them. Artificial intelligence, no. Off topic, but I just got a PS5, and man, I have been loving the PS5. I've been loving it. Good quality games. I've been buying a lot of games for it. Cyber attack on our country.
We have resisted the attack.
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
The target is constantly on alert.
Damn it.
The target...
Damn it. Why are we not able to find that? I really hope he doesn't come back and say, we have a problem. And the United States just launched a cyber attack against Brazil. Unfortunately, we do have unfortunately, this actually helps us. We have a $1.8 trillion contract with them, or treaty with them, global economic treaty, free trade agreements. Maybe in the future we can go for an economic and political agreement pact, kind of close up the loopholes, but that will not be happening as of right now. Maybe in our next term we will be able to do that. Let's do industrial pollution tax, 0.55%. We're going to do $20 billion, or 20 billion reais for that. That'll help us here. Maybe we can increase some of our custom duties, maybe against China. Kind of like I'm not going to try to depend on China too much anymore. And as well, we're going to decrease the tax on petroleum and energy products. We're going to lower this to 0.75 fixed amount. What is this called whenever it's below 1 real? Singular is real. Plural is reais. And apparently I say real and reais really well, but I am speaking in a Rio accent. One of the advisors for this show is from Rio, so I am saying it in a Rio accent. But I'm glad that I'm able to say real and reais really well for you guys, so especially for those Brazilians out there. Again, if you guys are watching this, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, please. I want to hit 7,000 whenever I make this video live. But anyway, what is the cent called in Brazil? So if it's 0.75, what am I saying whenever it comes to, is it 75 cents? Is it, I think you guys know what I'm saying. So this will increase costs by lower revenues by 17 billion reais. So let's go ahead and actually, just so we're not doing that, let's just do 85. 85 cents. We're just gonna call it cents for right now until I know for the next episode. But 11 billion, that'll be good. And we're going to go to whenever that passes, and I will go ahead and go to the end of the year. We're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. Been recording for about an hour now, so we're going to go ahead and go to the end of the year unless something happens by the end of the year, and then we will go ahead and wrap things up. And it looks like Christmas just came early in Brazil, so let's go ahead and sign a free trade agreement with Chile. So apparently there was an election in Chile, and we have now dark green relations with all of the southern part of South America. Let's go ahead and go over to here and let's look at our economic relations, and it looks like that we have very good relations with Chile. So it looks like that a lot of these countries in South America actually really like each other, so that's really good for us, because if we ever go for a international organization, then that means that we are going to be able to get a lot of people in our organization. So I also did open a lot of cells in these countries, so we're going to be able to kind of start spying on them, getting the mood that they're in, and everything like that. Our military relations just skyrocketed with Chile and Argentina, so I'm really happy that happened. And again, it happened right before Christmas, so in the Federative Republic of Brazil series, it's as if Christmas came early for us. So let's go ahead and move through all of this. We are almost to the end of the year. And before we go, I did build 100 more maternity hospitals, so we're going to get up to maybe about 2,500 maternity hospitals. We're also going to go ahead and try to make an effort to reduce suicide in Brazil, so we're going to go ahead and build 50 psychiatric hospitals for our citizens, and then hospitals, we're going to go for about 15 more across the country. So let's go ahead and go over to our mortality rates and causes of death. So heart disease, 16%. The most comes out from other types of cancers. Let's go ahead and see the causes of that. It's actually on the rise. So we have tobacco, alcohol, rich foods, atmospheric pollution, working conditions, and endocrine disruptors. So one of them we are already working on, which is atmospheric pollution. And the other one that I want to go for is heart disease, tobacco, inactivity, atmospheric pollution, rich foods, alcohol, insufficient quality of public health. So that's actually another thing, is that we need to increase the amount of funding that we have to our public health institutions. Suicide is what we are going after right now. It's, again, suicide is on the rise, unfortunately. So inadequate social and psychiatric services, inadequate emergency services, inadequate or insufficient quality of public health, and unemployment do contribute to suicide. So the ones before we head out will be inadequate social and psychiatric services. So we're going to do psychiatric or social services, since we already built some psychiatric services. We're going to do social services, and we're going to do emergency services. So let's go over to budget, and then let's do emergency departments. Do 1 star there, and then we're going to also do some to endocrine disruptors. So that's 6.9 billion reais. And then social centers. Social centers, we will do 1 billion reais here. We're going to build 100 of these. Social centers are actually not that much. So all right, so let's go over to Christmas Day, and it's actually almost Thanksgiving now at the recording of this video. I'll probably try to maybe get this out on Thanksgiving. So I got like 3 more days to render this video, so I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to do that for you guys. So happy Thanksgiving whenever this video comes out. Contract accepted by Chile, so we now officially have a free trade agreement with 1, 2, and 3 South American countries. We have a lot more work to do in terms of getting things done in South America. And the biggest thing that we're wanting to do is that we want to improve the quality of life in South America, and especially in the biggest country in South America. So let's look. So we have 55,000 reais GDP per capita. I think that's maybe around 5,000, about 5,000, maybe $7,000, maybe on the high end. I don't really know the exact conversion rates, so but it's still pretty good, I guess. And I know we're on the rise, so let's actually look. So GDP, our debt is going up. We need to kind of we haven't been able to cut our deficit in half since the beginning, but our structural deficit still exists. We need to get a structural surplus. If we can get a structural surplus, that will help us out. So public debt actually got up to 76%. It is now back down. So again, very, very good. And we have reduced the deficit by half since the beginning of the episode. So we are now at a 2.42% deficit. And let's go ahead and look that our growth is actually 6.48%. That gives us more room to increase things like the industrial pollution tax. So what we want to do is we want to have some sort of a rhythm in which our growth goes up, so our industrial pollution tax goes up. So that way we can kind of like start matching the growth that we get. That way we can control inflation. And then at the same time, we are able to reduce the deficit, and we are able to get out of our debt. So there's kind of a rhythm that happens whenever you get into the economic gameplay of this game. So if you need to match your taxes with your growth in order to control inflation. So it's like a 3-step process that I go through in order to get the economy under control. Sometimes I do lose control of it, but a lot of times I am able to kind of like get it into some sort of rhythm. But in order to kind of keep things realistic, that's whenever I kind of start to hold back on what taxes I'm increasing. That way I'm not just having like 1,000% financial transaction tax, because I've seen people do that before. Because I usually like to just have some spending room, maybe have some deficit spending. I need to make some sort of video, maybe in the next economic tutorial, in which we talk about like deficit spending, when you should do a deficit spending, how to know when you're ready to do deficit spending. So let's look at some of the economic values that we just got. So unhealthy housing situation, 36% of Brazil is living in unhealthy housing whenever they're living in actual like public housing. So that's only the public housing metric. So that is unfortunate that 36% of public housing is just illness, just horrible to live in, not even unsafe, it's unsafe, and it's like poorly ventilated, everything like that. So we're definitely tackling that as fast as we can, and we're going to try to tackle that as much as we can before the election campaign. So we're going to try to get that down to maybe about 30% by the election, and then let's go ahead and hit that. And then our economy grew by nearly 5% in 2025. We are now at a GDP of 12.1 trillion reais. Year to GDP growth figures for the last year. As you know, these are most important economic indicators, and it looks like that our deficit did reset, or their growth did reset. So that kind of increased our deficit a little bit, unfortunately. And then tourism professionals complain. We actually did subsidize let's go down here, tourism and hotel trade. We did subsidize tourism in Brazil, so we are actually losing some profits here, so it's unfortunate. Sales are actually up, but even though we exonerated them, we have not exonerated them, so we just did exonerate them. We have 1 million people working in this industry. And GDP, let's look. So we're actually experiencing maybe some sort of downturn in our services industry. And then as well, we are doing some growth. Maybe it's probably because it's the beginning of the year. We're 4 days into 2026, so that's definitely maybe it's not really a bug. It's just kind of like a lot of things reset at the beginning of the year. So I think next episode we'll probably also try to take a loan from, so we have a, wow, we have a $111 billion loan, 11 billion reais loan from the World Bank. So what I want to do is that I possibly want to make a loan from the IMF. I want to maybe seek maybe 25, 30 billion reais from the IMF, and then it's usually like a 1-year loan in which, if I actually click it right here, once passed, the funding is immediately paid out to the countries, including annual revenue. And then at the beginning of the next year, the country will no longer receive this additional revenue, and the country will experience a sudden change in their budgetary deficit. So that way we can start funding a little bit more in terms of like our healthcare and maybe even education. So I'm going to go ahead and end the episode right here, guys. Go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more content like this, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it. In the next episode, we are going to be concentrating on getting our unsafe housing metric down to 30% by the election period. So we're going to have to shoot for October to get that down to about 30%. So guys, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Go ahead and look forward to that next episode, in which we are going to be doing the Brazilian elections. And we are going to run for re-election. That'll be possibly the last time we see Antonio Silva run for an election. So leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care.